So, but not everybody needs to have that level of savvy to be legitimate. Here is Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically creating a hypothetical in his mind. And then he is saying, this hypothetical I've created is really problematic in the real world. He's sort of skipping over the part of it, like not necessarily being a reality, but go ahead.
See this leaderless movement, and it seems so attractive to young people that do feel disenfranchised by the system. So I watch them. I mean, I've seen so many videos of these people out there screaming and cheering and chanting, and they feel like they're a part of something, right? And they are, right? But what is that thing that they're a part of? Like, what's the end goal? That doesn't seem to have been really clear. Still, like, there's kids out in they were out in Woodland Hills out there chanting "No justice, no peace," and I'm like, okay, what justice are you talking about? Are you talking about George Floyd? Well, that in that case, it seems like that guy's going to go to jail for the rest of his life, and I don't know if that's justice or not. That police department has been disbanded. I don't know if that's justice or not. But what is justice and what is peace? It's just a slogan, but they feel good saying it. No justice, no peace. But I don't know what you're saying, but you feel very passionate about what you're saying. And I think if you pulled one of those kids aside and said, what's your message and what are you trying to do? I think a lot of them would have nothing to say. And that's very concerning to me. I'm very concerned about that because it seems like they're very enthusiastic and passionate about an invisible enemy, an enemy that they can't put on a scale. They can't tangibly describe it in a way that I understand it completely. It just seems like the structure of things they feel like is unjust.
I mean, the irony of that is that at the end, he nails it. It seems to them like the structure of things is unjust. Well, yeah, actually, that's it. You got it. Now, he's gone through a whole, this is the weird thing, is that Rogan here is describing himself. He doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And he, I think, feels somewhat sympathetic to what's going on, but he doesn't understand it. And so he projects this onto the people out there who are actually engaged. And it's quite possible that 10, 20, 30, 40% of the people who are out there can't articulate it. And that would make them exactly like every other member of every other movement that has ever existed at any time, anywhere. There are people who are better at articulating these things. There are other people who just have a sense that there's something wrong, and I want to go and support these people. But the idea that he can't describe justice, because he attempts, right? He's like, I'm going to try and guess what no justice, no peace means. Does justice means that Floyd needs to be, that the Floyd's killer needs to go to jail? Maybe. That seems to be happening. Does it mean that there needs to be reform in the Minneapolis Police Department? That seems to maybe be happening, but he can't get any further than that until the end, where he's like, maybe there's something structurally wrong that is unjust. And maybe that's what they're out there for. But it is a bizarre tick that one needs to project your own inability to wrap your head around this onto the people who are fighting for it as a way of discounting what they're doing. Because he's seen it on the TV and he's not saying to them personally, what are you fighting for? He's saying it to his TV or his computer. He's saying it to himself. He's asking himself. And because he can't come up with an answer, he presumes that none of them can. And I don't know what it is that he's afraid of in that situation.
That's just the reactionary impulse caught on tape right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a case to be made that any movement should be able to translate its message to the average, like, dumb white guy like Joe Rogan. But I think he's just not really paying that much attention, honestly. This is like some dorm room level philosophy that he's talking about in this clip. He's like, dude, what if we're all just in somebody else's dream? And when they wake up, we cease to exist. Whoa.
I am not fully on board with the idea that you need to communicate to Joe Rogan about that. Like, I'm not 100% sure about that. I mean, I don't think it hurts, but I don't think there's been any movement in this country, or there ever will be in any country, that has been able to communicate to 80% of the people and get them all on board for these type of reforms. I think you need a lot less, frankly, and to scare or to convince the right people. And maybe Joe Rogan is the right people that needs to understand these things, but it's not like he doesn't have a platform. It's not like there's nobody. Like, is there anybody in the country that he couldn't get to come on his program and explain it to him? You know, it's not like he's not sitting in the dorm and saying, like, I don't have access to the I mean, you don't know if it's a leaderless movement. I mean, like, go on Twitter for a half an hour and just like find the people that you find to be the craziest and see who they're quoting, and then ask that person to come on your show. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's head on Cornell West. Like that, you're really hitting upon some of the like disingenuousness of Joe Rogan, right? Because he does paint himself as this like everyman, average, dumb white guy, but he's like fabulously wealthy and has access to all the smartest people in the world. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, you know, this is he has the ability to actually examine this. He can actually go further than I was saying to my computer at these kids who were protesting in an area where, and I guess the idea is that, like, you know, I don't know about that, what that area is. If there's, maybe that's a Tony White area or something of LA, but he's wondering, like, you know, why are they interested in this? And he's worried, frankly, that these kids are, you know, and I think it's also an old man thing, frankly. I mean, he and I are the same age. I think it's like there is a definite change in the perspective of younger people as to these questions. And I think sometimes it's like, I don't understand it. So it must be that they have got it wrong.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's also relevant that Joe Rogan has said some really racist things in the past.
I also don't think that he is situated to be one of the first guys to get it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. We don't need him. Our movement doesn't need him.
Well, you know, now that he's going on to behind a paywall, he becomes, I think, less politically relevant in some ways.
Yeah.
And
he's Alex Jones in himself.
Well, it's more akin to what happened to Stern. Like, I remember the day that Stern, I mean, it's not as, you know, Spotify is far more accessible than Sirius XM. And obviously, you know, Howard made a ton of cash and the show continued on. But if you go and do like I don't know if it would pick it up at that. Oh, yeah, probably would. If you go and do a news search for Howard Stern prior to 2007 or whatever it was, 2006, when he went to Sirius XM, he was in the news almost every single week. He was in the news constantly. And then when he went to Sirius XM, out of the news, just not became a part of the cultural vernacular because he wasn't on free media.
I'm fine with having Rogan's political power diminished. I think he sucks. And I wasn't too happy when the Bernie campaign elevated his endorsement. I was glad that the endorsement happened, but like the amount of like horrible, racist, sexist, and transphobic stuff that he said on his show, it's like not really something that I want the left to be associated with. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm curious about why they did that. My only guess is that they wanted to take a comment that he had made sort of in passing and sort of lock him in, but I wouldn't have done it that way for sure.